Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Suplex Biddies, episode 34 in this mother. We're back. We're live. Brought to you by our good old friends at Couch Guy Sports. Make sure you use the internet one time. That's right, one time. Go check them out, couchguysports.com. Everything is now officially taken care of. Had a little bit of a hiccup with the website, but we are good now. That being said, my computer's finally on. Decided I wanted to update. Guess what? We're here. We're live. Chris Jones, brought to you by Suplex Biddies, for Suplex Biddies, and with Suplex Biddies. Also, we have at 15% brain capacity, Andrew Rodman. And apparently, Diego is released. So I'm a little bit confused of where he is mentally or physically. But I guess he's here as well. Diego?
What?
Diego, say hello. I don't know. Fuck. Don't give me that little giggle. Just say hello.
Hello.
All right. We got a jam-packed show for you tonight. We're going to recap Survivor Series, give predictions on what we think the NXT War Games pay-per-view could look like. And then we're going to do a fun little thing with a little roster builder. So with that, we'll dive into that in a little bit. But before we do that, we have a couple sponsors. Let's start off with the first one. The first one is our good old friend over at Exogun. Ever need a massage at a moment's notice? Do yourself a favor. Go to exogun.com. Use the code CGS10 for 10% off. Comes with a charger and a carrying case. Get a massage at a moment's notice when you don't have to leave the house. Major key alert. Chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. We'll go over our other sponsor in a little bit. But first, why don't we dive into the Survivor Series pay-per-view? Let's do that. Shall we, fellas?
Yep.
Real quick before I give the results of what happened, I want surprise. What do you think the surprise of the night was?
The clean finish in the main event for me. I didn't think there was going to be one guy pinning the other one, just 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. And there was. And Roman, did his thing. I thought there was going to be some chicanery to protect both. But, that was, to me, that was the biggest surprise.
Diego?
I don't know if I really have much of a surprise. I'm still trying to think about the whole night because I watched partly, to be honest with you. I think for me maybe the Intercontinental Championship match was a little bit of a surprise. I was expecting to see a lot more out of Shinsuke and Damian. I thought they were decent, but not all that great. Seeing Shinsuke beat Damian Priest via disqualification, it was just more like, kind of
a waste.
Yeah, it was more of a waste than what the potential of that match had to.
That's why they moved it to the pre-show, I guess, because they didn't really care about the result.
That match really had more to offer than what it really did. I mean, if you look at the two superstars when they are at their full potential, that match should have been one of the marquee matches of the night, and it just was like, oh, what was this?
It seemed like they just kind of threw it in there to show Priest is kind of edgy now and gets angry, and that was it. It's
I guess
to show him sort of turning heel, but
it's more of like a stereotypical kind of thing because if you look at who Damian Priest is, unfortunately in society they think of Puerto Ricans as these like hotheads that easily get irritated. And with Damian Priest being Puerto Rican, it's more like just kind of making more of a societal profile than anything else out of him than out of his actual talent. It's more just like, to what capacity did you really think this match through? That's more how I see it.
I hear that.
I think my surprise of the night was RK Bro beating the Usos. I mean, don't get me wrong, the way that it finished with Orton hitting the RKO as Usos going for the Uso splash, Probably one of the, I would say, top 5 RKOs of all time.
Yeah.
Both.
Just based off of timing and stuff like that. It's hard to do. Like, obviously, that goes below Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, stomp, flip up in midair. It goes lower than Evan Bourne doing the shooting star press. But all in all, I think it was a great RKO. Now, let's go over the rest of the card. So, obviously, Shinsuke defeated Damian Priest. Damian Priest got himself disqualified. Becky defeated Charlotte with a little bit of a roll-up. Team Raw had Seth Rollins be the sole survivor over Team SmackDown, whose last surviving member was Jeff Hardy. Almost won the Rock's 25th anniversary 25-man dual-branded battle royal. RK Bro defeated Usos. Team Raw for the women's defeated Team SmackDown as Bianca Belair beat Shotzi, who was the last one. And then Roman Reigns defeated Big E cleanly, as Hunman was saying. So what are our thoughts in that matchup? And or just even in the night in general, what do we think? What was the highlight? What was the low light?
For a pay-per-view that was almost seemingly like very little build, very little hype, almost feeling like a throwaway, and a lot of people were kind of mad at how much this thing just didn't freaking matter outside of like bragging rights. So like, why is the audience going to get invested? Why do we care? The Roman Big E match originally was like rumored to be starting off the show, and then when it got pushed to the end, there was people speculating that The Rock was going to show up because they did all the extra Rock promos and 25 years, all that. They did the little thing with like the golden egg from The Rock's new movie that's going to continue on Raw as we are in about an hour from when we're recording here. And man, I don't know. The Big E Roman match was great. It was just two big dudes beating the piss out of each other. It did its job, and Big E. They always say you can come out looking good just by working with a top dog, pun intended. And Big E looked good. He hulked up on some Superman punches, and I don't know. I kind of wish there was interference, which I never thought I'd say for a WWE pay-per-view. But for that specific match, I think it would have benefited both guys to sort of be more protected because Big E's so new into his reign.
Yeah, I mean, I just think in general, that match, they could have gone like a plethora of different ways on how they wanted that match to finish out. I think for me, I'm looking at how they started and how they finished. And I mean, Big E had plenty of chances. I think there were a couple times where he took a little bit too long, which, I mean, again, it's kayfabe. What do you expect? Jones, you blumbering idiot. But I just I don't know. I'm waiting to see more from Big E, and I mean he was fantastic in that pay-per-view match. Don't get me wrong, but I'm waiting to see him finally defend that title against a guy like Seth Rollins and stuff like that. So I'm curious to see what it looks like moving forward for him. I think for me, just having Raw again as the dominant brand in that aspect, it just kind of, it sucks, especially because Drew and Bobby were just counted out. I think that's slowly becoming one of my least favorite things to do with anything that has to do with the Survivor Series pay-per-view. There's every year they always cop out, and there's always one that just, they're like, oh yep, that's it, see ya, goodbye. Fucking DQ, count out, whatever. There's always one dumb thing that they do with that, and I'm kind of low key getting a little bit sick of it. So I don't know. I mean, I thought if we're doing it out of 5 stars, I'd give it like a 3.5.
Yeah,
like based off of what the build was and stuff like that, I expected it to be a lot worse, and it wasn't. So I would take that.
Charlotte and Becky was match of the night too. I think we can just at least throw that out there. That just looked great. It was
the fact that it was only like 18 minutes. I thought it was closer to a half an hour.
It was only 18 minutes, really?
My timing was way off. Yes.
Wow. Well, that's a hot crowd. It feels like it went on way longer than it did. That's how everyone's invested, and you're just like hanging on to every thread and every moment, every near fall.
If you really think about the whole night and the card itself, that match was really the only salvation for this Survivor Series to get some sort of attention. overall, because as you guys mentioned, the Roman versus Big E match, way overhyped for what it really delivered. Yeah, it was a clean finish and a clean victory and whatnot, but in itself, the context behind it, it just wasn't all that thriving to be one of the main events of the night, especially behind all the hype being done for the Rock's 25-year anniversary. You kind of just pissed all over before it even happened. I think the match between Becky and Charlotte, I mean, obviously proves again, Becky's still the top name in WWE, if you want to put it that way. But it also shows that in a way they're kind of figuring out what ways to go about past Charlotte Flair's era, because at this point it seems like Charlotte really wants out of WWE, and WWE almost wants out with Charlotte as well. Just picking back up on that storyline. So I think in all, great matchup and whatnot. I think it's just more of how does the transition go smoothly in the women's division, considering that's the only division somewhat saving Raw from being a tanker of a show.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you.
One of the trending things today, I don't know if you guys had seen it recently, was allegedly Andrade unfollowed Charlotte on Twitter today. So the internet's up in a blaze to see. They're wondering what happened, if something actually happened.
No, know how stupid Andrade is? He probably blamed it on the update on Twitter.
So who knows what's going on there? But yeah,
could be something, could be nothing. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, anybody else just sick and tired? I mean, like Hanuman, you said it best last night to me. How afloat is Twitter going to be looking at the fact that Vince comes out and just makes everybody fucking stand there and cheer him after
I did not like that.
After the roster cut, after roster cut, after roster
I was just completely out of touch. Completely. Just kind of a statement that's like, I'm still here. If you don't like the product, then get the fuck out. Fuck you. If it wasn't for the people, like, you wouldn't have a product.
Yeah. It's the thing that I hated about it that I said to you, Jones, yesterday was the egg was like, allegedly worth all this money. It was like Cleopatra's egg. That's what the whole Red Notice movie's based off of, is art thieves, stealing that stuff. But it's like Vince McMahon gets out of his limo. Everyone cheers for him. And all these people that didn't recently get fired. And then he's holding this symbol of wealth and hundreds of millions of dollars. And then they cheer for that. And it's like, why do you have to fire all these? It just did not, poetically and narratively, everything. It did not work. And it was for an angle on the show, because I think Vince just kind of wipes his hands at the releases once they're done.
Oh,
doesn't even talk about it. So for him, he just did it because it was part of the joint effort between them and Netflix. But it did not come across well from what I've seen, for at least myself and many others that I've talked to, and the internet itself was just.
What point were you trying to prove there? That the company still has money? The company doesn't really have that much money and isn't all that fluid when all these releases are happening. And more than likely, you're going to end up having to sell the company because of all these investor meetings that you're having that are leading up to these releases. If investors are telling you that you're not profitable and that you're having to do more roster cuts, what money are you flaunting? The $1.50 that you have in your wallet to afford yourself maybe a McFlurry at your McDonald's nearby? Like,
if you can get a McFlurry for $1.50 somewhere, let me know. Send me that link. Sounds great.
I mean, at this point, even McDonald's would give them a discount, considering how fucking broke WWE is at this point.
Yeah.
All right, let's not talk about how broke WWE is. Let's move on.
Well, they just reported $250 million earnings in their latest quarter or whatever it was. So.
And they're still this is cutting people.
Yep. We've gone over that many times.
I love this business. It's so bad. Let's move on. Let's talk potential war games. That got announced.
Yep.
NXT War Games, December 5th. Right now, there's only one match on the card, and it's a women's war game match between Team Raquel, which is Cora Jade, Raquel Gonzalez, Io Shirai, and a person to be announced, going up against Dakota Kai and Toxic Attraction of Mandy Rose, Gigi Dolan, and Jace Jane. So, first question I'm going to ask: who do we think is going to be the TBA woman for the War Games match?
I have no idea. They could literally slot in anybody at this point. So who was announced so far? Was Toxic Attraction and
Dakota Kai.
Yeah.
Versus Cora Jade, Raquel Gonzalez, and Io Shirai.
Okay. Because I was gonna say Shirai's tag partner Starks, but she's hurt.
Unless they're doing the kayfabe thing where she comes back.
Yeah.
One of those.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I do not know the answer. I don't have much speculation there.
I mean, I think so. Diego, do you have any potentials?
I mean, the only potential that I can think of, but that just doesn't make sense at all, is potentially Tegan Nox, considering that she was just released. Maybe WWE is looking to shift things up and bring her back, considering that there was a lot of backlash after that release. People were really pissed off about Tegan being released. We've seen WWE kind of do these kind of things where they've let Brock Lesnar walk away and then they bring him back again over and over and over again. With Tegan having a lot of talent left to show, it could be a pretty cheap roster move that they could make. But other than that, I really don't have anybody else in mind. Everybody else that has been released at this point is still having to wait for their 90-day clause. So,
yeah.
I think so. I think one of them could be Kaylee Ray, which would be fantastic for that match. A sneaky one. It wouldn't make sense to me, but a sneaky one that could fill the void here personally would be Indy Hartwell.
That's
what I
was just thinking of.
Having her basically help Raquel Gonzalez, and then Raquel goes up. Indy Hartwell becomes the big force of NXT women wise. I mean, it's just it could write itself. But those are the two that I would suspect would be in this spot, unless Zoe Stark they do the kayfabe thing.
Right.
What other things do we think could happen at War Games? Like
I don't like that they're just tossing a War Games in there. It's almost like what they started doing with Hell in a Cell. Because, Hell in a Cell used to be an encapsulation of a ridiculous feud. Like Seth Rollins and Edge deserved to be finished in a Hell in a Cell. And then you look back and every year they just do the pay-per-view in like September or October. And there's 3 or 4 of them. And sometimes they have a 2 to 3 week build. And it's like this War Games thing almost feels the same way. Like the past few years has been Undisputed Era holding it down with a bunch of different people. Even the women's one last year. There was heat building up from seemingly months. And it made sense to blow off a bunch of feuds and people getting called up, whatever you want to call it. And I just think it's getting tossed down everybody's throat again. And I think it's dumb. And they're just going to force the gimmick and it's just going to lose its appeal, much like Hell in a Cell has over the years.
I think, frankly, about this War Games thing, honestly, it almost feels like a copycat move of what AEW is doing with their pay-per-views. Like if you think about All or Nothing and how soon that was scheduled, shortly after another major pay-per-view, it almost feels the same exact way here. They just had a big pay-per-view with Survivor Series. Now they're bringing up War Games to what kind of draw some sort of attention to a platform that you basically let be crippled in itself after all the releases you made. I don't know. I don't know what else you're looking to move here, and I don't know what else you're looking to prove here. It's scheduled at a time that's completely out of touch. Once again, just WWE right now is just kind of hoping to grasp things with whatever they can possible to finish the year in a supposedly strong manner. But at this point, I'm not entirely sure how much more profitable you can be.
It's their tale as old as time thing where they just do something as a quick ratings boost.
Yep.
An extra couple hundred, maybe an extra couple 10,000 people tune in because it's War Games, and then for 1 week you get some numbers, but then after that, what happens? They've been doing this for how long? It's just temporary fix. Couple things of tape, not filling the pothole. You're just putting dirt in it. Like, figure it out.
Yep, I agree with that.
I just think that they have the potential to get something going here, especially because it's a 2-week build for them. They haven't really done much with it. but I think that they're slowly working their way. I think the men's, I think they're going to throw a men's war games at us. And I think we're going to get kind of like the veterans of the NXT roster going up against the new up and comers as well.
Kyle O'Reilly's versus everyone. Yeah.
So see, I don't think O'Reilly's a part of it though. I think they're going to do like Gargano and Pete Dunne leading the way. And then you have like LA Knight and I don't know, someone like maybe Cameron Grimes or Dexter Lumis or something like that. Then you go up against Odyssey Jones, Carmelo Hayes, who are like their two big up and comers, and then throw in like Tony D'Angelo just to get his name out there, and then you throw Boa, maybe Andre Chase, just some of those guys that they have on the roster now that aren't really big names that they can get in, maybe like a Joe Gacy. Like there are names that they could do if they wanted to do this. But for me, I think that's their men's war game, and I think the NXT title is going to be on the line. I think we're going to get Ciampa and Braun Breaker Part 2, and I think Braun Breaker is going to beat him this time. So I think we could also get that, and then I don't know, maybe we finally see the Cruiserweight Champion back in action. Maybe we see Santos Escobar. Like there's so many different avenues that they can go with these matches, but they need to figure out what to do and what to do quick. Like Imperium could defend the tag titles. Like there's so many different avenues, but they need to figure things out quick because it's coming, and this is the last pay-per-view of the year for anything WWE related. So it's a little bit of a pressure situation, if you ask me.
It's honestly just, again, to Hyman's point, it's rushed. It's not thought through. It's just another patch in the road. And frankly, if you are hoping to get that much of a rating as well of an impulse in your viewership, where's your marketing? Because your marketing is nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. You haven't done any marketing for this. If you want to draw attention to any sort of event, you got to do some marketing. And there hasn't been any marketing at all for this. There was a ton of marketing done for Survivor Series, which, as we all, just talked about, completely under-delivered. But if you're looking to finish the year strong and you're scheduling War Games this early in the year, you kind of dropped the ball heavily on your marketing.
I mean, this late in the year.
Well, December 5th. December 5th seems like a bit early for me to be finishing the year when it comes to pay-per-views. If anything, it should be the week before Christmas, so you have more viewership and you have the traction going.
They'll build up towards day one, which is going to be their pay-per-view on New Year's Day this year. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I don't know, man. It's just sitting there. You're looking at it. You're thinking about it. You're going, "Geez, what are we doing?"
Well, the other thing too that the War Games matches will still be entertaining. And it's just like, those matches are put a beating on these dudes' careers and their bodies and the women's careers. So like I said, I just want there to be more at stake behind it. Like, it's almost like what they did with Survivor Series. Like, there's just no big thing about it. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I hope that no one gets hurt and it wasn't just for, an extra 50,000 viewers on a Tuesday night,
I know what you mean. But let's move on. We got one more topic to talk about tonight. We're going to do a little bit of a so we're going to do something a little bit different tonight. I want to see exactly what a roster builder, right? Is that what I wrote in the notes?
Yeah,
I believe so.
So we're going to do a roster builder. So basically, we each got assigned a show. Raw, SmackDown, NXT.
Show builder.
So basically what we're going to do is we're going to maybe potentially fix a show. Monday Night Raw. Maybe just we're going to try and fix the show. We're going to say who we would have as our current champions, what their feuds would be, and what our show would look like if we were running it. So we'll start with Mr. Monday Night, the released man himself, Diego the DJ Galvis.
I appreciate it. So I'm gonna start off things in a dark note because unfortunately that is where WWE is headed. and seeing that my name is released, I'm going to start off with a couple of releases that I see potentially happening for Raw. That is Doudrop being released and Dana Brooke getting released. Those are two names that unfortunately will no longer be part of the roster per WWE standards, especially with Raw. If I'm thinking of the women's division and some matchups that I would like to see, as well as feud and storylines that I would like to see, first up and foremost, I need to see a storyline between Bianca Belair and Alexa Bliss. I think Alexa Bliss has been poorly utilized on Monday Night Raw. She is great at getting the attention of the crowd, and a storyline where she can show her physicality versus a top caliber like Bianca Belair could draw some viewership. So that'll be a help in viewership for Monday Night Raw. I would like to see a Nikki Ash versus Carmella gimmick as well. The two are good at on the mic. They're good at talking trash. Nikki Ash is more of an entertainer, while Carmella is more of like that trash talker that can get the crowd amped up to boo her, but to also be good as a heel turn, basically. So I would like to see that. And I would also like to the continuation of the Liv Morgan versus Becky Lynch storyline. I think that has a lot of potential. Liv Morgan has been living up to her expectations. She's been delivering beyond her standards at this point for the product, and I think it's only fair to give her a push, potentially making her become the new Raw champion for the women's division. In the men's division, I think the Randy Orton and Riddle group will eventually just break out. I think their storyline has been good and all, but I think both of them are entertaining enough where they can break out and still be successful. We've seen a push for Austin Theory as of late. It seems like management really likes to work with Austin. It is a talent that was poorly utilized in his first go for WWE. So I would like to see a storyline between Riddle and Theory as they're the two younger members of the roster. It could potentially draw up a kind of a storyline for the future for Monday Night Raw. I think Commander Aziz will finally want to break out away from Apollo. Thank you, from Apollo. And we could potentially see kind of a little bit of a rerun of what used to be WWE Underground when Shane McMahon was running that segment. I would love to see Commander Aziz versus Omos. Kind of a storyline of the heavyweights, just to kind of make it fun and entertaining. I like to see as well something along the line between Edge and Bobby Lashley. I think they're two complete separate profiles that could really develop into a storyline headed into WrestleMania, potentially even SummerSlam. I think the two can deliver heavily. It can actually draw up a lot of viewership from Monday Night Raw, considering that the two are heavily liked by wrestling followers. I'd also like to see an AJ Styles and Finn Balor rivalry develop. I think the two, again, very athletic, very giving, excellent talents to have in this Monday Night roster that are just utilized in the wrong ways. And I think some physicality can go a long way between the two. Randy Orton, again, already in the history-making aspect of things for WWE. I think I would like to see more history be made with Randy Orton, and what better than a potential storyline for a title between Seth Rollins and Randy Orton. I think The Miz continues to be a little bit underutilized here Monday Night Raw, especially with the release now of John Morrison. So I think The Miz versus a Mysterio storyline could be somewhat eye-catching, somewhat entertaining, especially with Dominic needing a little bit more of building to be made around him. I think
Dominic, needing a dad.
Exactly. I think Dominic could utilize somebody could utilize the push of somebody like The Miz to finally get to that point where he no longer really needs to rely on his dad and can actually take on WWE as he needs to take on, as he should have already taken on WWE. And last but not least, I think another storyline that I would like to see, it's more of a, two big men slapping meat. It's Kevin Owens versus Big E. Love that one. So that's a little bit of my shakeup for Monday Night Raw. I think the roster in itself is good. I do think, again, could see some releases being made. Unfortunately, Dana Brooke and a Doudrop would be the first two people that I could see let go. Behind them, I could see Reggie, R-Truth.
Not Reggie.
Not Truth.
I think
so sad.
And maybe even Shelton Benjamin released as well.
Mm-hmm.
But there ain't no stopping him.
No.
Maybe even honestly, maybe even Gable Stevenson as well. I could see him be gone.
Oh, listen, they're keeping Kurt Angle 2.0 very much for a good period of time here.
So those would be the roster changes that I would do, and kind of storylines that would need to be done for Monday Night Raw to finally again capture the audience's interest. Speak to the people rather than draw away from the people and pretend like you're better than the people that are putting paychecks in your pockets every Thursday or Friday, whenever you decide to pay these people, if you pay these people.
Do we want NXT to go first? Or do we want SmackDown to go first?
Yeah, just go by the days of the week. Yeah, go ahead.
Monday,
Tuesday.
Oh, so it's me. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm next. I'm NXT. Right now, so what I would do is my. So let's see. My world champion would be Braun Breaker.
Mm-hmm.
I would be building that to the friggin' moon. And the opponent that I would have him facing, if I could, get him on the roster, of course, is none other than one of the best NXT wrestlers of all time, and that's Walter. Give me Braun Breaker and Walter to the friggin' universe. I'll run that into the fucking ground. I don't even care, because guess what? They would put on some fantastic matches, and I want to see who hits harder. Then I'll move over to my tag division. For the men, I would do Imperium versus goodness. I'm gonna create my tag team right now. Ready for this? Give me Imperium versus Dexter Lumis and Joe Gacy. A tag team that makes absolutely no sense, but the bar made no sense, and they were freaking fantastic together. I think guys like Lumis and Gacy as tag team champions would be phenomenal. So I'll take that as my big tag team feud there. NXT North American champion, I would have Cameron Grimes be my NXT North American champion. To the moon. He's fantastic, and I would have him, honestly, I'd have him going up against I would probably have him going up against a guy like Pete Dunne. I think Cameron Grimes versus Pete Dunne, we haven't seen it yet. I think that would be fantastic. Pete Dunne hits hard, and Cameron Grimes is just a young, talented superstar. A couple of the mid-card feuds that I would like to see, I'd like to see Boa going up against, Johnny Gargano would be fantastic, just because I think Boa has the potential, to be a part of the bloodline, because he's Jimmy and Jay's brother. But I like what he brings to the table there, and I'd like to see him do stuff. Also, I would like to see Santos Escobar versus Roderick Strong as my next big cruiserweight feud, because I think Santos is so good and talented, and him and Roderick would put on classic matches back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. They both hit hard. And I would run that into whatever big NXT pay-per-view is. I think it's after SummerSlam. I would run that into the ground just because I think of how good that is. For the women's, The women's tag, I love the Toxic Attraction team of Gigi Dolan and Jace Janey, but I would like to see them go up against, obviously, once Candice Gargano or Candice LeRae, whatever you want to call her, is finally back. I would love to see them two go up against Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell, with Candice LeRae and Indy as the faces, and that feud I think would be great. Candice as a face, big name. She'll draw in crowds left and right. I think she'd be great. NXT Women's Championship, Mandy Rose. Give me Mandy Rose and give me, honestly, I'll ride. Give me Mandy Rose versus, Shirai would be a good one, but I'm going to take Mandy Rose and, what's her name? I'm drawing a blank on Kaylee LeRae. I think those two together, Mandy Rose is talented. We've seen what she's done and how she's built her brand and her name. Now as the NXT Women's Champion, I think she needs to be challenged a little bit. And what better than the longest reigning NXT UK Women's Champion, Kaylee LeRae? I think those two would create some fireworks there. And another feud I would like to see, Kane Carter and Casey Catanzaro are like best friends. Break them up, feud them together. Give me the rivalry. Give me a reason to put them on the card. NXT, there's plenty of guys. They have guys coming up like Tony D'Angelo, who I mentioned earlier for War Games. Odyssey Jones is a good one. Kushida's still in the roster. They have a solid little roster going here, but they need to get guys over, and to get guys over, you need to put them in good feuds. And right now, what they have with Braun Breaker, they're getting him over because they're feuding him with Ciampa. But once that's over and he's the champion, who do you face? Who do you have Braun Breaker face? That's a big thing for NXT moving forward. So that's what I would have for NXT as of right now.
Cool. Moving on to Friday nights.
Wednesday, Thursday, no. Well, we're not talking AEW. Thursday, no. Friday.
Yep.
No, not Rampage. SmackDown.
The other one.
Good.
So I did more of a sort of like a soft reset kind of thing. My main champions, I'm still going to have Roman as my Universal Champion. I'm going to have Ricochet as my Intercontinental Champion. Going to have Nakamura and Ricky Boogs as my Tag Team Champions. And I'm going to have Naomi as my Women's Champion. And for the feuds that I would like to see with those main titles, and again, it'd be nice if they were all featured prominently every week, but we know that's just not the case because there's only 2 hours, and they tend to let programs kind of thin out every other week or whatever you want to call it. But Roman versus Jeff Hardy. Right now, there's not really anyone that's going to step up until Brock Lesnar comes back to fight Roman. And I think everyone, at least I think that's going to be the money match going into WrestleMania, is Roman versus Brock. I hope not, because they've already done it. Though it is two big names, But Roman versus Hardy, Jeff Hardy was treated like a top name last night at Survivor Series, being the last guy left on Team SmackDown. Had a very positive showing, and it's one of those guys the fans are always going to be over with. Everyone loves Jeff Hardy. Him getting one last run at the top. Not that he's going to beat Roman in his current state, would be nice to see. See a little Hardy boy, swanton bomb on the Roman man. That could last for a couple months. that could last a few months. The main feud I'd like to see Ricochet as a heel, just because they haven't done that. And it'd be kind of funny if he kind of got one of those smug characters of like, maybe I'm just better than everybody, and he still does all his flippy stuff and just does all those cheesy smiles and like maybe flips off the crowd here and there if he could.
Love me a good flippy stuff.
Me too. And his first opponent that I think they could run for as long as they possibly wanted would be Cesaro. Another one of those guys that should always be featured every week. The matches they could put on would be incredible. And it would just be, they run feuds into the ground, but at least they have enough talent to mix it up so it's not a repeat match every friggin' week. Next up, I went a little out of the box for the tag titles, but I did Nakamura and Boogs because I think Nakamura is one of your bigger names on the roster, even though he hasn't been treated as such.
Let me some Boogs.
And he should always somewhat be involved in a title match or have a title around his waist. He's obviously been sort of wasted as the Intercontinental Champion. Boogs has definitely helped Nakamura stay over and even maybe get over just a little bit more because everybody loves themselves some Ricky Boogs, like Jones said there. And I want to see them feud with Sami Zayn and Mace.
What a weird team.
I know.
Yeah,
But think about how
this has GM mode written all over it.
Dude, I was just going to bring that up because GM mode's coming back in the next WWE game, and this is the type of shit that I would love to book. But Sami Zayn's been doing a lot of stuff backstage where he's been going around kind of like talking to seemingly lost souls. I can't talk. Lost souls, you know, someone that maybe lost their way, someone that needs a little bit of guidance. What better than a big 6'10" giant man in Dio Madden or Mace, whatever they want to call him. And Zayn can be that great liberator. They can feud with Nakamura and Boogs. It would obviously be a very funny feud.
Boogs.
So I would like to see that be different. For the women's feud, I would like to see Naomi involved with the feud with Sasha Banks, as well as, I don't know if I can say it, but Xia Li. Is that Xia Li?
Xia Li. Yeah.
She's one of those ones that had some cool performances on NXT. This was that I didn't want to keep doing the single matches, regular tag match. This triple threat, Sasha's your established veteran. She can carry the big match. Naomi's one of those ones that's underutilized. You want her to be involved in something. And how else would you want to get the best out of Xia Li than put her with two of the top veterans on the roster? You know, recognition, triple threat. Could put on some great matches, I feel. And it would be cool to see. I think Sasha might win the Rumble this year, but we'll see. You know, who knows?
Don't say that. Don't say that.
Who's left?
Come on.
Who's left?
We saw it last night. It's Shotzi fucking Blackheart.
But just again, it's just that top tier talent, the mid-level that never gets what they deserve, aka like Cesaro in the men's division, Naomi in the women's division, and then the new face that you want to get established to then have some marquee feuds. So I think that would be a great way to do it. I threw a couple mid-card feuds in there that obviously would be intertwined with each other here and there and not featured prominently every week. But the Drew McIntyre Ali feud that they kind of started like a month ago and then never did anything with was something that I wish they stuck with. They had Ali challenge Drew, put on a pretty good match with them, and then say, you're gonna, I forget what he said. It was just something along the lines of, I'm sick of you being like the poster boy when I'm over here busting my ass and I can't even get on TV more than once every month. I liked that dynamic of the underutilized guy that feels overshadowed and overlooked versus Drew, who's just there. He's one of your main guys. He can jump up to the main event at any time. So it'd be cool to see them. Ali gets a little rub. Go from there. Another one for the women, I would have liked to see Charlotte versus Storm. We don't know if that's going to pick back up because Toni Storm did challenge Charlotte recently before Survivor Series. But that's another one of those ones. It's your veteran, one of your top ones on the roster. Doesn't need to have a title. But then Toni Storm, great performer, great wrestler, someone to get her established with the audience, maybe get a couple wins over the big name in Charlotte. Boom.
Roast.
And then there was two tag feuds that I thought could kind of get intertwined. And, whether it's 8-man tag matches or 6-man single matches with managers, whatever you want to do. It's such GM mode stuff. Usos versus Viking Raiders. Viking Raiders haven't been quite used much. They also haven't feuded with the Usos, and as far as I can remember, because I tried looking that up earlier and I couldn't find anything. And the Usos are
one. No.
Yeah, I don't think so. So that's one of the few times where two pretty solid tag teams haven't crossed paths. Usos, big names. You want to still keep them in the limelight, even if they're not in the tag title scene at the current moment. That's one way to do it. And the last one I wanted was hoping that might get a little bit of rub. Same idea. Veterans helping the young guy get his build. Sheamus and Rich Holland versus the New Day and Woods and Kofi Kingston.
New Day rocks.
Sheamus is just one of those opponents that's always going to be forever tied to the New Day because of, the bar and all those other matches they've had. Rich Holland's coming up. He's the new, buddy of Sheamus or lackey, best friend, whatever you want to call it. Sheamus and New Day bring out the best in each other. Why not throw Holland in there, get the best out of him? So it's just a way you want to mix and match all these new names while keeping the ones that the audience knows featured prominently. And by association, they end up getting a following and they get their fans and they just get increased. I don't want to say viewership, but there's an increased understanding of your entire roster as a whole. So they just got to mix and mingle more and more, get these other names in and out. If they're just going to release all these other somewhat established names, you got to do something to bring the rest back and get the audience to care about more than like your top 5. So I would like to see all of that.
All right. Really quick before I say anything else, have you ever felt unable to focus, tired, and just low on energy? Well, we understand that feeling, and we understand it so well that Suplex Biddies is brought to you not only by the Couch Guy Sports Network, but we're also sponsored by our friends over at Shocked Energy. Shocked Energy is a drink made by gamers for gamers, and all their flavors come packed with 180 milligrams of caffeine to ensure that no matter what you're doing, your focus will always be razor sharp to keep you performing at the top of your game. Their formulas are designed to specifically, give you a high energy boost when you need it the most while ensuring to avoid the jitters after too much caffeine consumption. Do yourself a favor. Head over to www.shockedenergy.com now. Use the promo code CGSN today for 10% off your order. Check out their green apple flavored box or even their watermelon flavored box. Oh, and don't worry, because guess what? They ship worldwide. That's right, worldwide. Get your Shocked Energy today and let us help you gain your focus and energy back. Now, any final thoughts before we end episode 34 of the Biddies that like the suplex?
No, we're here. We're watching the product. We hope things start to turn around as you get closer to WrestleMania season. You know, things tend to get a bit of a kick in the butt, so they tend to put out their best months of programming. Come the Royal Rumble most of the time, but it could tread toward that. This is one of those things where they could just tread water and throw a bunch of random shit together and stuff they're comfortable with, and you just kind of coast until the end of the year. We'll see if they do that, because that's a tale as old as time at this point. AEW still killing it. There's not much to really say.
I was very, very, very nervous for a second when Hanuman goes, "We're here." I was waiting for something else to come out of his mouth. It didn't, thank goodness. Little bit of a scaredness on my part there. No, I mean, I'm good with tonight. I think we put in some good effort tonight. Diego?
I agree. I think the only thing that I would recommend is make sure that if you're not already doing so, make sure that you're following us on Spotify. Turn those notifications on so you know that our episode has been released and dropped on that platform. Same with Apple Podcasts. And if you haven't rated and subscribed yet onto YouTube, you're doing it wrong. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Couch Guy Sports. Thank you so much.
Yeah, like you said, make sure that you're checking out Couch Guy Sports. Go couchguysports.com. You've seen it tonight once. How many times, Hanuman?
One time.
Once. One time.
And then you'll be hooked forever.
Yeah.
Get
go
on
check
there.
out,
then you
go
got to be
check out all the
bookmarking that
blogs.
shit.
Yeah. Go
You
check
got an
out all the
iPhone?
blogs.
You got an iPad? You got a tablet? 3 bookmarks. Couch Guy Sports. 3 different times, 3 different articles, same time. Living 30-30. That's where you need to be. Read it all. Take it all in. You know what I'm saying?
Hanuman was so good about interruptions until the ending right there.
I had to make up for it.
So with that being said, his 15 brain capacity released, and Chris Jones signing off, and we'll see you guys next week for episode 35 of the Biddies that like to do the suplexing.
Peace.
Also, happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, do that. Turkeys and cranberry sauce.